Across a gulf of space so vast that light itself must travel for 2,700,000,000 years to bridge the distance, there exists a realm of staggering complexity and terrifying scale. This is the Abell 2261 cluster, a celestial metropolis located far beyond the familiar constellations of the northern sky. It is not merely a collection of stars, but a cosmic hive, a massive assembly where more than 1,000 individual galaxies are bound together in a lethal and beautiful embrace. They are held in place by the invisible architecture of dark matter, an unseen web that provides the gravitational scaffolding for the largest structures in the known universe. This dark matter acts as a silent master, its immense pull preventing these swirling islands of suns from flying apart into the eternal void. At the absolute centre of this swarm sits a monarch of light, a structure so immense that it defies the standard definitions of galactic anatomy. This is the brightest cluster galaxy, a gargantuan elliptical titan that spans over 1,000,000 light-years from one edge to the other. To stand on its periphery would be to look inward at a sea of stars so dense and all-encompassing that the concept of a night sky would lose all meaning. The firmament would be a solid wall of brilliance. This galaxy did not achieve its current majesty through peaceful growth. It is a product of eons of cosmic conquest, a cannibalistic giant that has systematically swallowed dozens of smaller neighbouring galaxies, incorporating their stars and their secrets into its own bloated frame. In every other galaxy of this magnitude discovered by the eyes of humanity, the laws of physics dictate a clear and predictable internal structure. Gravity acts as a master architect, pulling the dense population of stars toward a singular dominant point of focus. As the gaze of a telescope peers deeper into the heart of a typical giant, the density of starlight should intensify, sharpening into a brilliant, piercing needle of luminosity. This is known as a galactic cusp, a luminous signal that marks the presence of a supermassive black hole. This invisible titan, often weighing billions of times more than the Sun, acts as the gravitational anchor of the entire system, the silent governor that maintains the orbital order of the billions of stars that call the galaxy home. However, as the most advanced instruments available to our species are turned toward the heart of the brightest cluster galaxy, in Abell 2261, the expected order vanishes. The images returned from the cold vacuum of space reveal a haunting vacancy. Instead of a sharp, concentrated peak of light, the core of this galaxy is a flat, featureless expanse of diffuse starlight. It is a bloated fog of suns, spread out over a staggering distance of 10,000 light-years, lacking any central focus or gravitational pivot. The anchor is gone, the governor has fled, the very heart of the empire is missing, leaving behind a hollow sanctuary of light that challenges every intuition held by modern astronomy. This absence is a profound violation of the natural order. It is as if a great cathedral had stood for 1,000 years, only for its foundation to suddenly vanish while the spire remained suspended, impossibly, in mid-air. The missing heart of this galaxy is not merely a scientific curiosity. It is a crime scene on a scale that dwarfs the imagination. 10 billion suns worth of gravitational mass has seemingly evaporated into the dark, leaving the surrounding stars to drift like a congregation without an altar. The starlight here does not scream toward a centre. It whispers into a void where a titan should be. The silence of this empty core tells a story of ancient, invisible violence. For a black hole of such magnitude to be missing, a catastrophic event must have occurred. A collision of such power that it could uproot the very foundation of a galaxy and hurl it into the abyss. We are looking at the aftermath of a cosmic expulsion, a moment where the fabric of space-time was churned into a frenzy, and a king was cast out of his own kingdom. The search for this missing heart is more than a quest for data. It is a detective story that spans billions of years and billions of light-years, a journey to understand how the most powerful objects in the universe can be moved, and where they go when they are forced into exile. As we stand on the edge of this cluster, looking inward at the diffuse glow of the central giant, we are forced to confront the limits of our understanding. The universe is not always a clockwork machine of predictable orbits and stable centres. It is a place of sudden, violent shifts, where even the most massive anchors can be torn loose. The story of Abel 2261 is the story of a missing star, a fugitive gravity, and the realization that in the vast unfolding epic of the cosmos, the most important part of the picture is sometimes the thing that is no longer there. We begin our descent into this hollow empire, seeking the echoes of a collision that redefined the architecture of the heavens and left a giant to wander the dark without a soul. The human mind has always been tethered to the concept of a central axis, a singular point of stability around which the chaos of existence might turn. For thousands of years, the gaze of our ancestors was fixed upon the North Star, the one point in the rotating vault of the night that refused to move. This celestial stillness gave birth to the geocentric vision, a universe where the Earth sat as the immovable throne, and the sun, moon, and wandering planets performed a perfect circular dance around us. It was a model of supreme order, a comforting architecture where everything had its place relative to a singular divine centre. Even as the Renaissance dismantled the idea of a central Earth, the obsession merely shifted. We traded a central world for a central sun, and then for a central galaxy, always seeking a fixed point to anchor our understanding of the infinite. This comfort was shattered as the tools of observation sharpened, and the scale of reality underwent a violent expansion. In the early decades of the 20th century, the true nature of the heavens began to emerge from the shadows of the unknown. Before this era, many believed that the entire universe was contained within the Milky Way, a single, lonely cloud of stars surrounded by an eternal empty void. The faint fuzzy patches of light scattered across the sky, known then as nebulae, were thought to be mere swirls of gas within our own stellar neighbourhood. This narrow view was obliterated by the work of astronomers like Edwin Hubble. Working with the 100-inch telescope at Mount Wilson, Hubble began to resolve individual stars within the Andromeda Nebula, measuring their distances and realizing with a shock that they were millions of light-years away. The universe was not a single city of stars, but a vast dark ocean populated by billions of these island universes. Each galaxy was revealed to be a structured, complex machine of staggering proportions. They were not random, messy associations of matter, but highly organized systems governed by the invisible hand of gravity. Whether they were elegant spirals with arms of blue fire or massive golden ellipticals, they all followed a common underlying blueprint of galactic anatomy. As the map of the cosmos grew, so too did the realization that these galaxies required a governor. By the middle of the 20th century, the hunt for the engine of these star systems led to the discovery of the most extreme objects in existence. Scientists realized that the intense, high-energy radiation pouring from the hearts of distant galaxies could only be explained by the presence of supermassive black holes. These are singularities with the mass of millions or even billions of suns compressed into a region of space smaller than a solar system. These titans became known as the gravitational heartbeats of the cosmic order. They are the anchors around which entire galaxies revolve, their immense pull keeping the stellar populations from drifting into the intergalactic wasteland. A black hole at the centre of a galaxy is not merely a predator, it is a stabilizer. It regulates the birth of stars and maintains the orbital integrity of the system. Its presence is so fundamental that it became a law of cosmic anatomy. Every large galaxy must hide a supermassive black hole at its core. From this realization emerged a fundamental expectation of symmetry and light. In a healthy, undisturbed galaxy, the distribution of stars should behave like a mountain peak. As one travels from the dark, sparse outskirts toward the interior, the concentration of suns should grow steadily, then surge violently at the very centre. This creates what astronomers call a luminous cusp, a sharp point of brilliance where the stars are packed so tightly that their individual identities are lost in a singular blinding glare. This peak is the visual signature of a black hole's presence. The gravity of the central titan acts as a magnet, pulling stars into a dense, frantic orbit. The closer one gets to the centre, the more crowded the space becomes, until the starlight reaches a fever pitch of intensity. This is the standard model of the universe, a world of centres, of anchors, and of predictable peaks of light. It is the logic that has guided our understanding of the heavens for a century. We expect to find the heaviest weight at the centre of the scale. We expect to find the brightest light at the heart of the city. Yet, as we turn our attention back to the massive elliptical galaxy at the heart of the Abell 2261 cluster, this logic fails. The mountain peak of light has been leveled. The brilliant cusp has been replaced by a flat, featureless plateau. The stars here do not swarm around a central master. They drift in a state of strange, uniform isolation. This violation of galactic anatomy suggests that the heartbeat has stopped, or rather that the heart itself has been ripped out. To understand how such a thing is possible, we must look past the light and into the mechanics of cosmic violence, where the laws of gravity can sometimes turn against the very structures they created. The standard model of galactic evolution is a narrative of inevitable collapse toward a singular dominant center. Gravity, the tireless sculptor of the cosmos, works across billions of years to draw matter inward, refining the chaotic distributions of gas and stars into a focused, luminous point. In any typical giant of the universe, this process results in what astronomers term a galactic cusp. It is a region where the density of stars increases exponentially as one approaches the core, creating a tight, brilliant knot of light that signals the presence of a central master. At the heart of this knot sits a point of near-infinite density, a supermassive black hole that anchors the entire system. This is the expected architecture of the heavens, a pyramid of light where every star is a stone built upon the foundation of a central gravitational well. Yet, as the most powerful instruments of the modern age, the eyes of the Hubble Space Telescope and the deep-seeing mirrors of ground-based observatories are turned toward the brightest cluster galaxy of Abell 2261, this architectural logic dissolves. Instead of a sharp, piercing peak of starlight, the center of this galaxy is a vast, featureless plateau. It is a core that is strangely flat and uniform, stretching across a staggering distance of 10,000 light-years. To put this into perspective, such a core is large enough to swallow several smaller galaxies whole, yet it contains no discernible center of gravity. The starlight does not surge, it stalls. It is a bloated, diffuse fog of suns that seems to have forgotten where the center of their world is supposed to be. This flatness is more than a visual anomaly. It is a profound defiance of cosmic intuition. To understand why this vacancy is so jarring, one must look to the principles of thermodynamics established in the 19th century. The physicist Sadi Carnot and his successors described a universe where energy and order naturally seek a state of equilibrium, yet in the presence of gravity, order often concentrates into central heat sinks. In a healthy galaxy, the central black hole acts as such a sink, a well into which energy and matter are drawn, creating a high-pressure, high-density environment that radiates with intense light. The laws of physics suggest that over eons, the interactions between stars and the central mass should inevitably lead to a concentration of density. For a galaxy as old and massive as the one in Abell 2261 to possess a hollow, low-density core is a violation of the expected flow of cosmic entropy. The vacancy in this galaxy represents a breakdown of the fundamental relationship between mass and light. In the language of galactic anatomy, the missing cusp is a sign of a catastrophic intervention. If we view a galaxy as a celestial cathedral, then the core is the high altar, the place where the greatest power and the most intense light are concentrated. In Abell 2261, the cathedral remains, its massive walls of stars spanning hundreds of thousands of light-years, but the altar has been violently removed. The congregation of stars is left to drift in a hollow sanctuary, orbiting a ghost. There is no central point of reference, no gravitational North Star to guide the billions of suns that comprise the inner core. This creates a state of scientific tension that borders on the surreal. The sheer scale of the missing mass required to create such a bloated core is estimated at 10 billion times the mass of the Sun. For an object of that magnitude to be absent from the very place it should reside suggests a history of unprecedented violence. The flatness of the core is the footprint of a titan that has stepped out of the frame. It is the evidence of a process that has physically pushed the stars away from the center, scouring the core and leaving it empty. This scouring of the galactic heart is a phenomenon that should only occur under the most extreme circumstances. involving the collision and merger of the most massive objects in the universe. As we peer into this 10,000 light-year void, we are forced to ask what could possibly be powerful enough to level a mountain of stars. What force could defy the thermodynamic tendency toward a central peak and instead create a uniform, diffuse wasteland of light? The answer lies in the mechanics of gravitational recoil, a process so energetic that it can turn the most massive objects in existence into cosmic projectiles. The empty core of our Bell 2261 is not just a mystery of missing matter. It is a monument to a moment of invisible, staggering power that tore the heart out of a giant and sent it screaming into the dark. The investigation now turns from the stillness of the void to the chaotic history of the cluster, where the dance of galaxies leads to the birth of monsters and the exile of kings. The brightest cluster. Galaxy of Abell 2261 is a creature of relentless ancient hunger. It sits at the absolute nadir of a gravitational valley, a position that makes its growth not just possible, but inevitable. For billions of years, it has acted as a cosmic scavenger, a silent predator that draws in any smaller galaxy brave or foolish enough to drift within its reach. These are not mere collisions, they are slow, agonizing absorptions. The larger Titan uses its tidal forces to strip the stars from its victims, peeling away layers of suns like the skin of a fruit. Over eons, hundreds of these smaller systems have been dismantled, their individual identities erased as their stars were integrated into the massive golden halo of the Conqueror. This galaxy is a graveyard of empires, a monument built from the wreckage of 1,000 lesser worlds. Each merger should, by all known laws of cosmic evolution, strengthen the center, funneling gas and smaller black holes into the heart of the giant to feed a singular growing master. When the Hubble Space Telescope turned its crystalline gaze toward this giant, astronomers expected to see the culmination of this cannibalism, a dense, blindingly bright nucleus where the accumulated mass of 1 billion meals had settled. They looked for the signature of a supreme ruler, a point where the starlight would reach a crescendo of intensity. Instead, the data revealed a staggering anomaly that defied decades of observation. The core of Abell 2261 is the largest ever recorded in the history of astronomy. A vast expanse of starlight stretching across more than 10,000 light-years. But this gargantuan size is not a sign of density, it is a sign of a hollow interior. The light does not gather into a sharp, piercing needle of focus. It is a diffuse, uniform glow, a pale mist of stars that lacks any central anchor. Hubble's vision stripped away the mystery of the galaxy's scale, only to replace it with the mystery of its emptiness. The core is bloated and spread thin, as if the stars have been physically pushed outward by an invisible hand, leaving the center of the galaxy as a low-density wasteland. Within this hollow sanctuary, a Titan is missing. Calculations based on the total mass and light of the surrounding galaxy suggest that a supermassive black hole of unprecedented proportion should reside at its heart, an object with the mass of 10 billion suns. This is a figure that challenges the very foundations of galactic formation. A black hole of this scale would be one of the most massive objects in the observable universe, a singular point of gravity capable of holding billions of stars in a tight, disciplined orbit. It would be the sun to 1 trillion planets, the ultimate governor of a stellar empire. Yet, as the gaze of our most sensitive instruments penetrates the fog, there is no evidence of its presence. There is no high-energy radiation, no swirling disk of superheated gas screaming in the throes of consumption, and no gravitational signature of a central master. The 10 billion solar masses that should be anchoring this empire have vanished, leaving behind nothing but a quiet, expanded field of light. The absence of this central black hole carries a profound philosophical weight that resonates through the halls of modern physics. A galaxy of this size without its central singularity is a body without a soul, a sprawling biological machine whose heart has been surgically removed while the rest of the organism continues to function. It is a solar system where the sun has been plucked from the center by some impossible force, leaving the planets to continue their orbits around a ghost, held together for a time only by the fading memory of gravity. The stars in the core of Abell 2261 are orphans, drifting through a 10,000 light-year fog without a governor to dictate their paths or a central well to keep them bound. This vacancy is a haunting reminder that even the most fundamental structures of the universe are subject to change, displacement, and loss. The galaxy stands as a silent witness to a moment of supreme upheaval, where the very anchor of reality was torn loose and cast into the void. To see a core this large and this empty is to see the footprint of a god that has departed. The question that now haunts the scientific community is not just where the black hole went, but what kind of celestial event could possibly possess the power to uproot 10 billion suns and hurl them into the dark. We are looking at a kingdom that has lost its king, and the silence of the void suggests that the departure was anything but peaceful. The investigation must now turn to the physics of the impossible, to the moments when the fabric of space itself is whipped into a frenzy by the collision of titans. Long before the present silence, the region of space that would become the home of Abel, 2261, was a theatre of apocalyptic movement. Two colossal galaxies, each a sprawling empire of billions of stars, were drawn together by the inexorable pull of their mutual gravity. They did not strike each other like solid objects. Instead, they began a slow-motion interpenetration, a ghostly wreckage where the vast distances between individual suns allowed them to pass through one another like smoke through a forest. Yet, while the stars themselves rarely collided, the gas and dust within these systems were compressed and ignited, birthing new generations of suns in a frantic final burst of creation. The sky of any world within these merging giants would have been filled with the terrifying beauty of a second galaxy descending from the heavens, its spiral arms wrapping around the horizon like the limbs of a drowning god. Deep within this swirling chaos, the two governing hearts of these galaxies, their supermassive black holes, began to feel the presence of one another. These were not mere points of matter. They were profound tears in the tapestry of existence, each possessing the mass of billions of suns. As the galaxies merged, these two titans were funneled toward the center of the new, combined system by the friction of surrounding stars and gas. They fell toward each other across light years of distance, eventually reaching a point where they became bound in a lethal gravitational embrace. This was the birth of a binary system unlike any other, a pair of singularities locked in a dance that would redefine the architecture of the entire cluster. The two black holes began to orbit a common center, their movements carving deep furrows into the fabric of space-time. As they circled, they acted like a gargantuan whisk, stirring the very vacuum of the universe into a swirling whirlpool. The stars that once occupied the center of the galaxy were not merely spectators. They were caught in the crossfire of this orbital frenzy. As the black holes spiraled inward, they interacted with the surrounding stellar population through a process of gravitational slingshotting. Any star that wandered too close to the binary pair was captured by their shifting fields and hurled away from the core with terrifying velocity. This was the beginning of the scouring, a celestial cleansing where the heart of the galaxy was systematically emptied of its suns. The dense peak of light that should have existed was being dismantled star by star as the two titans cleared a path for their final union. As the orbit of the two black holes tightened, the speed of their dance increased to a significant fraction of the speed of the light. The fabric of the universe was no longer a passive stage. It was being dragged and twisted by the sheer mass of the rotating singularities. Light itself, the fastest messenger in the cosmos, found its path warped and broken. Starlight passing near the binary pair was bent into shimmering arcs, creating a hall of mirrors where the same star might appear multiple times in the sky, its image distorted and stretched by the extreme gravitational lensing. The event horizons, the borders of no return, began to loom closer to one another, two shadows of absolute darkness silhouetted against the frantic glow of the surrounding gas. The whirlpool intensified to a point where reality itself seemed to scream under the strain. The energy being shed by this binary system was not merely heat or light, but the energy of motion itself, bleeding into the very geometry of space. The two titans were now so close that they were no longer just orbiting. They were falling into a terminal embrace. The very concept of a central point began to lose its meaning as the two holes whipped around each other thousands of times every second. Reality around them was a maelstrom of distorted physics. where time slowed to a crawl and the distinction between matter and space began to dissolve. The surrounding stars, those that had not yet been ejected, were subjected to tides so powerful they were stretched into long ribbons of glowing plasma, adding their substance to the screaming accretion disks that ringed the binary pair. The stage was set for the final union. The stars had been cleared from the core, the gas had been blown away or consumed, and the two most powerful objects in the galaxy were poised on the brink of becoming one. But this union would not be a quiet affair. It was destined to be the most energetic event in the history of the cluster, a moment of such profound imbalance that it would change the fate of the galaxy forever. The dance was reaching its crescendo, and the resulting blast would be felt across the entire breadth of the cosmic web. The two hearts were about to beat as one, but the rhythm of that new heart would be a violent singular pulse that would echo through the void for billions of years to come. In this final approach, the very ripples of their movement began to carry away the last of their orbital energy, setting the scene for a recoil that would send a billion suns screaming into the dark. As the two supermassive black holes reach the final stages of their lethal spiral, they begin to shed their very essence into the vacuum of the universe. This energy does not escape as light, heat, or matter, for nothing, not even the swiftest photon, can flee the gravitational grasp of these titans. Instead, the energy is radiated away as gravitational waves, literal ripples in the geometry of space-time itself. These are not abstract mathematical concepts. They are physical distortions that stretch and compress the fabric of reality as they propagate outward at the speed of light. Like a cosmic siren song, these waves carry away the orbital energy of the binary pair, acting as a relentless brake that draws the two singularities ever closer. With every orbit, the waves grow stronger, more frequent and more desperate, signaling the impending dissolution of two separate entities into a single, unified whole. The power being broadcast into the void by these ripples is staggering, momentarily surpassing the combined luminosity of every star in every galaxy in the observable universe. If the human eye could perceive the warping of space, the entire cluster of Abell 2261 would appear to shudder and vibrate under the influence of this invisible radiation. The very distance between stars would expand and contract in a rhythmic pulse, a heartbeat felt across the breadth of millions of light years. This is the ultimate expression of gravity's power, the ability to turn the stage of the universe itself into a medium for the transmission of energy. However, this cosmic broadcast is rarely a perfect, balanced harmony. For the emission of gravitational waves to be symmetrical, the two black holes would need to be identical in mass and spin, orbiting in a perfect circular alignment. In the chaotic reality of a galactic merger, such perfection is non-existent. One black hole may be twice or three times the mass of its partner, and their spins, the frantic rotation of the singularities themselves, may be tilted at jarring angles to one another. This fundamental imbalance creates a profound asymmetry in the gravitational waves being hurled into space. Like a lopsided engine vibrating on its mountings, the binary system begins to emit waves that are stronger in one direction than in another. This asymmetry introduces a terrifying new variable into the physics of the merger. As the black holes radiate more gravitational energy toward one side of the galaxy, the laws of conservation dictate an equal and opposite reaction. The binary pair begins to experience a steady building pressure, a hidden force that pushes against their center of mass. This is the buildup of the gravitational kick, a slow accumulation of momentum that is being stored within the very geometry of the system. The more lopsided the waves, the more intense this pressure becomes. The fabric of space is no longer just a highway for these ripples. It has become a spring being wound to the point of snapping. As the distance between the two event horizons narrows to a few million kilometers, the frequency of the gravitational waves reaches a roar. The two titans are now orbiting each other hundreds of times every second, their surfaces moving at nearly the speed of light. The distortions in space are so extreme that the very concepts of near and far begin to break down, The energy release is reaching its absolute peak, a crescendo of invisible power that scours the surrounding core of any remaining gas or dust. The stars that have survived the earlier phases of the merger are now caught in a storm of space-time fluctuations, their light being whipped and scattered by the passing waves. The tension in the core of the galaxy has reached a breaking point. The two black holes are no longer just two objects. They're a single, tormented system on the verge of a phase transition. The asymmetry of the gravitational wave emission has reached its maximum, creating a massive directional thrust that is poised to act upon the new singularity the moment it is born. The universe is holding its breath as the two event horizons touch, a moment that will mark the end of the binary dance and the beginning of a violent new reality. The energy of a billion suns is about to be focused into a single, directional blast, a recoil that will turn the most massive object in the cluster into a fugitive. The geometry of the universe is about to recoil, and the heart of the galaxy is about to be cast out into the eternal dark. The two event horizons, boundaries of no return that define the edge of the known and the unknown, finally touch. In an instant that lasts less than the blink of a human eye, the two singularities cease to exist as separate entities. They merge into a single gargantuan shadow, a newborn titan that possesses the combined mass of 10 billion suns. This is the moment of the merger, a phase known to science as the ring down. The newly formed black hole is not yet a perfect sphere. It is a distorted, wobbling mass of concentrated gravity, vibrating like a bell that has been struck by a hammer forged in the heart of a star. These final, frantic vibrations emit one last, catastrophic burst of gravitational waves, a surge of energy so powerful that it briefly outshines the entire rest of the universe in every direction. Because the binary dance that preceded this union was lopsided and imbalanced, this final explosion of energy is not uniform. The last, most powerful ripples of space-time are blasted out in a specific direction, carrying with them a momentum that must be balanced by the laws of the cosmos. As the gravitational waves scream into the void on one side, the newborn black hole experiences an equal and opposite reaction. This is the gravitational wave recoil, a phenomenon where the very fabric of space acts as a launch pad for the most massive object in the galaxy. The black hole is not merely nudged, it is subjected to a sudden violent kick of such magnitude that it defies every earthly comparison. To move an object of 10 billion solar masses is a feat that requires energy beyond the scale of a billion supernovas. It is as if a mountain of solid granite spanning hundreds of miles in every direction were suddenly plucked from the earth and hurled into the middle of the sea by an invisible giant. It is a cannonball of pure darkness being fired from its own carriage, where the carriage is the very centre of the galaxy. The force of this recoil is so immense that the newborn singularity is accelerated in an instant to a velocity of thousands of kilometers per second. In the span of a few heartbeats, the heart of the galaxy is transformed into a fugitive, moving with such speed that the combined gravitational pull of every star in the empire is no longer enough to hold it. The black hole begins its journey away from the centre of the core, a dark bullet tearing through the dense clouds of stars it once governed. As it moves, its immense gravity continues to influence its surroundings. It does not travel alone, it drags with it a small, loyal retinue of stars and gas that were caught within its immediate sphere of influence at the moment of the merger. These stars are the lifeboats of a sinking kingdom, destined to follow their displaced king into the unknown. Behind the fleeing Titan, the centre of the galaxy is left in a state of utter ruin. The stars that were not dragged away are scattered and thrown into chaotic new orbits, their collective density plummeting as the central anchor vanishes. The mountain of light that should have marked the core is levelled, replaced by the diffuse, bloated fog that will eventually puzzle the astronomers of a distant future world. This is the Great Expulsion, a moment of cosmic divorce where the governor is separated from the governed. The black hole is now a runaway, a nomad of the void travelling at a significant fraction of 1% of the speed of light. At this velocity, it will cross the 10,000 light-year expanse of the core in a mere fraction of the galaxy's lifespan. It is moving fast enough to reach escape velocity, the threshold beyond which the gravity of the brightest cluster galaxy can never pull it back. The throne is empty, and the king is in flight, destined to spend the rest of eternity wandering the outskirts of the cluster, or perhaps leaving it entirely to enter the lonely reaches of the intergalactic wasteland. The violence of this event leaves a permanent scar on the architecture of Abel, 2261. The core remains expanded and hollow, a 10,000 light-year footprint of the recoil that occurred eons ago. The starlight we see today is the lingering glow of a sanctuary that was scoured clean by the departure of its master. We are looking at the aftermath of a cosmic car crash where the most massive vehicles simply drove away from the wreckage, leaving the witnesses, the billions of stars, to drift in a state of perpetual disorientation. The search for the fugitive king now begins, a hunt through the X-ray shadows and the hidden corners of the galaxy to find where a 10 billion sun mass could possibly hide after being cast out of its own home. The detective work of the modern age must now pick up the trail of a phantom that has been running for 2 billion years. The hunt for the fugitive king shifts from the realm of visible starlight to the invisible, high-energy echoes of the deep universe. To find a phantom that emits no light of its own, astronomers turn to the Chandra X-ray Observatory, a sentinel orbiting high above the atmosphere of the Earth. Chandra does not see the gentle glow of suns. It sees the screams of matter being torn asunder and heated to millions of degrees. If the displaced black hole is still within the boundaries of the galaxy, it should betray its presence through its hunger. As it moves through the diffuse gas that permeates the galactic core, its immense gravity should pull that gas into a swirling, incandescent whirlpool known as an accretion disk. This disk acts as a cosmic beacon, radiating high-energy X-rays that can be detected across billions of light-years. The search is not for the black hole itself, but for the glowing crumbs left behind by a predator that cannot help but feed as it flees. The primary suspects in this celestial investigation are 4 mysterious clumps of stars located within the bloated 10,000 light-year expanse of the core. These knots of light are compact and dense, appearing as small, bright islands within the larger sea of diffuse starlight. Astronomers theorize that these clumps are the lifeboats of the former empire, clusters of stars that were so tightly bound to the central black hole that they were dragged along when the gravitational wave recoil kicked the Titan out of its throne. Each of these 4 clumps represents a potential hiding spot, a localized concentration of mass that might still harbor the 10 billion sun fugitive at its center. The logic is sound. Find the star cluster that is hiding a source of intense X-ray radiation, and you find the missing heart of the galaxy. The data arrives as a series of cold clinical packets, processed by computers and translated into maps of high-energy activity. Astronomers wait for the telltale signature of a point source, a sharp spike in the X-ray spectrum that would indicate a feeding singularity. Yet, as the images of Abel 2261 are resolved, they return a haunting blankness. The X-ray maps of the core are as featureless as the starlight that precedes them. There is no glowing accretion disk, no superheated gas, and no sign of a central engine. The 4-star clusters, once thought to be the most likely refugees for the exiled king, remain silent. They are merely groups of stars drifting through the core without the high-energy heartbeat that would signal the presence of a supermassive black hole. The frustration of the data is palpable. A mass of 10 billion suns does not simply evaporate. It is one of the most substantial objects in the known universe, yet it has managed to elude the most sensitive high-energy eyes ever built by human hands. The absence of X-ray signatures suggests 2 equally unsettling possibilities. The first is that the black hole is currently dormant. It may have already consumed all the gas and dust in its immediate vicinity, leaving it with nothing to feed upon as it drifts through the void. In this state it would be truly invisible, a dark ghost travelling through a dark room, detectable only by the way its gravity might subtly warp the light of stars passing behind it. Without a meal, the Titan remains a shadow, silent and unreachable. The second possibility is more radical. The black hole may have been kicked with such violence that it has already cleared the core entirely, and is now lurking in the far outskirts of the galaxy, or even in the lightless space between galaxies. If the recoil velocity was high enough, the fugitive might be located hundreds of thousands of light-years away from the center, far beyond the regions where astronomers have focused their search. The hunt is hampered by the sheer scale of the territory. Searching for a silent black hole in a galaxy that spans over 1 million light-years is like searching for a specific grain of sand in a desert during a moonless night. Our best technology, while capable of seeing across the cosmos, remains blind to a titan that refuses to reveal itself through the violence of consumption. This silence deepens the mystery and highlights the human element of discovery. The researchers involved in the search do not see this blank data as a failure, but as a challenge to the existing models of how the universe functions. They are driven by a fundamental need to find the missing piece of the puzzle, to account for the 10 billion suns that the laws of physics say must exist somewhere within this cluster. The empty X-ray maps are a reminder that the universe is under no obligation to be easily understood. We are a species that has learned to see the invisible, yet we are currently outmatched by a nomad that has mastered the art of disappearance. The trail has gone cold, but the investigation continues, pushing the limits of our vision and our patience as we attempt to track a king who has left no footprint in the snow. The architecture of the galaxy remains broken, and until the fugitive is found, the story of Abel 2261 remains a narrative with a missing final chapter. The fugitive king is now a wandering nomad, a silent predator drifting through the dim and sparse outskirts of the galaxy it once anchored. Far from the luminous core where stars are packed together like grains of sand in a jar, the outer regions of the brightest cluster galaxy are a lonely wilderness of aging suns and cold, diffuse gas. Here, the 10 billion sun titan moves with a quiet, terrifying grace. It is no longer the center of all things. It is a displaced mass, a gravity well of nearly infinite depth traveling through a region of space that is almost empty. In this isolation, the black hole becomes a ghost. Without a steady supply of gas to compress into a glowing accretion disk, and without nearby stars to tear into ribbons of plasma, the singularity reveals nothing of itself to the electromagnetic spectrum. It emits no light, no heat, and no radio waves. It is a hole in the universe, invisible against the backdrop of the eternal dark. This state of invisibility exposes the fundamental technical limitations of our current era of exploration. Our most advanced instruments, from the golden mirrors of the James Webb Space Telescope to the high-energy sensors of the Chandra Observatory, are designed to detect the interactions between matter and energy. They thrive on the violent signatures of consumption, the screams of gas heated to millions of degrees as it is crushed by gravity. But a black hole in a state of quiescence, a state of rest where it is not actively feeding, is fundamentally different. It is a pure gravitational lens, a distortion in the geometry of space that can only be detected if it passes directly in front of a distant, background light source, bending that light into a shimmering Einstein ring. Given the immense scale of the galaxy, which spans hundreds of thousands of light-years, the probability of catching such a transit is vanishingly small. We are essentially blind to the most massive object in the cluster because it has ceased to scream. It has retreated into the silence of the void, a silent master of a territory that is too vast to be searched by sight alone. This invisibility has not deterred the human spirit, nor has it silenced the curiosity of those who look at the data and see a missing piece of reality. For years, teams of dedicated researchers have turned their lives toward the study of Abel 2261, staring into the void with a persistence that borders on the obsessive. They have spent thousands of hours combing through every pixel of starlight and every photon of X-ray radiation, seeking the slightest hint of a gravitational anomaly or a faint, unexpected glow. These scientists refuse to accept that an object with the mass of 10 billion suns can simply vanish without a trace. Their work is a testament to the human need for order and closure, a refusal to leave a hole in the map of the cosmos. They operate on the belief that the universe is a solvable puzzle, and that if the black hole is there, it must eventually betray its presence through some subtle interaction with the cosmic medium. The search is a grueling exercise in patience. It involves the careful measurement of the velocities of thousands of individual stars in the outer reaches of the galaxy, looking for a group of suns that are moving faster than they should be, as if they are being whipped around an invisible heavy weight. Every time a new dataset arrives from a telescope, there is a moment of bated breath, a hope that the fugitive has finally been cornered. Yet, time and again, the results return a haunting negative. The stars in the outskirts appear to move in their expected leisurely orbits, showing no sign of a nearby Titan. The researchers are forced to return to their models, adjusting their theories on how fast the black hole was kicked and in what direction it might be travelling. It is a game of three-dimensional chess played across a board that is billions of miles wide, where the opponent is a shadow that does not want to be found. This persistence is driven by more than just scientific rigour. It is driven by the philosophical implication of the missing heart. To leave the black hole unfound is to admit that our understanding of galactic evolution is incomplete. If a 10 billion sun mass can be lost in the dark, then what other titans are lurking in the outskirts of other galaxies, unseen and uncounted? The hunt for the fugitive king is a hunt for the validity of our own laws of physics. Each year that passes without a discovery adds another layer to the mystery, making the void of Arbel 2261 one of the most significant challenges in modern astronomy. The researchers continue their vigil, staring into the deep field images until the stars begin to blur, driven by the conviction that even a king in exile must eventually leave a footprint in the snow. The silence of the nomad is not an end, but a provocation, a demand for a better way of seeing the invisible. As the investigation continues, the focus begins to shift from the search for the object itself to the long-term consequences of its absence, looking toward a future where the architecture of the galaxy begins to slowly inevitably unravel. The absence of a central governor is not merely a missing piece of a puzzle, it is a fundamental shift in the destiny of an entire galactic empire. Over the next several billion years, the architecture of the brightest cluster galaxy in Abell 2261 will undergo a slow and inevitable unravelling. In a typical galaxy, this supermassive black hole acts as a gravitational anchor, a deep well that keeps the stellar population of the core in a state of high-density discipline. Without this anchor, the stars that inhabit the 10,000 light-year core are no longer bound to a singular point. They are like dancers who have lost the music, continuing to move but gradually losing the rhythm that once held them together. As the eons pass, the process of stellar relaxation will take hold. Without the dominant pull of a central mass, the individual gravitational interactions between the billions of stars become the primary force of change. In a chaotic game of cosmic billiards, stars will tug on one another, exchanging momentum in a slow, invisible exchange of energy. This process, which usually takes billions of years to manifest, will cause the already bloated core to expand even further. The stars that were once part of a concentrated peak of light will drift further into the surrounding space, their orbits becoming larger and more eccentric. The 10,000 light-year plateau of starlight will grow wider and dimmer, transforming the centre of the galaxy into a ghostly low-density fog that blends seamlessly into the outskirts. The galaxy is effectively losing its heart, not just in mass, but in structure, becoming a sprawling, featureless collection of suns that lacks any internal definition. While the galaxy slowly dissipates, the fugitive king continues its journey into the eternal night. The black hole, having been kicked with the energy of a billion supernovas, is travelling at a velocity that the galaxy's remaining gravity cannot hope to arrest. It has already cleared the core and is now tearing through the dark matter halo that surrounds the visible stars. In a few 100 million years, a mere heartbeat in the lifespan of the universe, the singularity will cross the invisible boundary known as the virial radius, the point of no return where the galaxy's influence finally fades to nothing. At this moment, the black hole will cease to be a part of the Abell 2261 cluster and will become a true nomad of the intergalactic void. The fate of this exile is one of profound and absolute loneliness. As it enters the vast, empty reaches between the clusters of galaxies, the black hole carries with it only the small retinue of stars it managed to snatch during its violent departure. For a time, these lifeboat stars will continue to orbit the dark Titan, providing a faint, flickering light in the absolute blackness of the intergalactic medium. But even this light is temporary. Over trillions of years, these stars will exhaust their nuclear fuel, fading from brilliant blue and yellow into the dim red of cooling embers, and finally into the cold, dark husks of white dwarfs. One by one, the lights will go out, leaving the 10 billion sun mass as a solitary invisible monument to a forgotten collision. The intergalactic void is a realm of such terrifying emptiness that the black hole will likely never encounter another significant object for the rest of time. It will wander through a space where there is perhaps only one atom of hydrogen for every cubic meter of vacuum, a density so low that the black hole will effectively stop growing. It will no longer feed, no longer scream in X-rays, and no longer influence the birth of new stars. It becomes a dark star in the truest sense, an object of near infinite mass that interacts with nothing, a silent titan drifting through an eternal night that spans trillions of light years. Back in the cluster, the brightest cluster galaxy will remain as a hollowed-out shell, a monument to the king that was cast out. The stars will continue to burn, and the galaxy will continue to hold its place at the centre of the dark matter web, but its internal spirit has been broken. The expansion of the core is a slow-motion explosion that will eventually leave the galaxy as a diffuse glowing cloud with no discernible centre. This is the future of Abell 2261, a slow decay into anonymity, a gradual loss of the order that once defined its existence. The missing heart has set the galaxy on a path toward a state of maximum entropy, where the light is spread so thin that it becomes indistinguishable from the background glow of the universe. In the end, both the galaxy and its exiled master are destined for the same fate, to become ghosts in a universe that is slowly, inevitably turning out the lights. The story of the missing star is thus a preview of the final act of the cosmos, where every centre is lost and every anchor is torn loose, leaving only the expanding dark. The missing heart of Abell 2261 is a prophecy written in the invisible ink of gravitational waves. As the universe continues its relentless expansion, the great clusters of galaxies that currently define the cosmic web will eventually become isolated islands, cut off from one another by the accelerating stretching of the vacuum itself. Within these lonely islands, the dance of mergers will reach its inevitable conclusion. Every galaxy within a cluster will eventually collide and coalesce, creating ever larger titans. With each merger, the risk of gravitational recoil increases. The ejection of supermassive black holes, once thought to be a rare anomaly, will become a standard feature of the late-stage universe. The cosmos is moving toward an era of dark stars, a period trillions of years in the future, when the brilliant tapestries of starlight have faded and the only remaining inhabitants are the black holes themselves. Many of these singularities will no longer reside at the hearts of galaxies. Like the fugitive of Abell 2261, they will have been kicked into the intergalactic wasteland by the very waves of space-time they created. The universe will transform into a vast, lightless gallery of wandering nomads, each carrying the mass of 1 billion suns but offering no light to the surrounding void. These are the ghosts of the great galactic empires, the final remnants of a time when matter was organized into centers and structures. The very concept of a galaxy will dissolve as the stars that once comprised them either fall into the central holes or are scattered into the abyss. The universe will become a collection of lonely, wandering remnants, drifting through a space that is expanding too fast for them to ever meet again. This slow dispersal of the galactic hearts is the ultimate expression of entropy, the universal tendency toward disorder and the exhaustion of energy. In the early universe, gravity acted as a force of concentration, pulling matter together from the primordial gas to form stars, galaxies, and the supermassive anchors that held them. But as the eons pass, the mechanical order of the heavens begins to break down. The hollowed-out core of Abell 2261 is a preview of the heat death of the cosmos. It represents the transition from a state of organized, high-density complexity to a state of uniform, low-density exhaustion. Eventually, every galaxy will lose its anchor, every star will drift away from its neighbor, and the very concept of a center will lose its meaning. The energy that once powered the great engines of the universe will be spread so thin that no further work can be performed, and the cosmos will reach a state of maximum entropy. The missing black hole serves as a symbol for the inevitable dissolution of all structure. It teaches us that the anchors of reality are not permanent. Even the most massive objects in existence, those that govern the lives of trillions of stars, are subject to the whims of a chaotic and violent geometry. The universe is not a static machine, but a process of unfolding decay. The silence that now fills the core of the brightest cluster galaxy will one day fill the entire cosmos. The final state of the universe is one where even the black holes themselves begin to fade. Through the process of Hawking radiation, these titans will slowly leak their mass back into the vacuum over timescales that defy human comprehension, 10 to the power of 100 years. In the end, they will vanish in a final silent flash of light, leaving behind a universe of cold, lonely photons and nothing more. In this distant future, the story of Abell 2261 will be the story of everything. The expulsion of its heart was merely an early symptom of a universal condition. We are living in a brief, luminous window of time where gravity still holds things together, where centers still exist, and where the light of 1 billion suns can still be gathered into a single point. But the vacancy we observe today is a reminder that this window is closing. The fugitive king is a messenger from the end of time, a precursor to a reality where everything is a nomad, and the dark is the only thing that remains. The architecture of the heavens is being dismantled, one recoil at a time, until the last center is lost and the universe achieves its final, silent equilibrium. The missing star is the first page of the final chapter, a sign that the great cosmic experiment is slowly winding down toward a state of eternal, featureless peace. The brightest cluster galaxy of Abell, 2261, remains today as a silent, shimmering monument to the unexpected. It stands as a profound reminder that the universe is under no obligation to follow the neat, symmetrical scripts that the human mind seeks to impose upon it. For centuries, our understanding of the heavens was built upon the foundation of order, a belief that every great system must have a center, and every effect must have a visible cause. We expected to find a throne at the heart of this empire, a singular point of overwhelming gravity that anchored the billions of stars in their orbits. Instead, we found a haunting emptiness, a hollowed-out sanctuary that defies the standard laws of galactic anatomy. This galaxy does not merely exist, it challenges the very framework of our cosmic intuition, proving that even the most massive anchors can be torn loose and cast into the abyss. This vacancy is the legacy of the void, a testament to the fact that the history of the universe is written as much in what is missing as in what is present. The empty core is a scar, a permanent physical record of a moment of invisible, staggering violence that occurred eons ago. It tells a story of two titans that met in the dark, merged in a frenzy of space-time ripples, and were then separated by the very laws of physics that brought them together. To look at the diffuse starlight of the core is to look at the footprint of a departed god, a reminder that the most powerful objects in existence can be turned into fugitives. The galaxy is a broken mirror, reflecting a past that was far more chaotic and energetic than its current stillness suggests. The search for the missing heart of Abell 2261 also reveals a great deal about the human condition. We are a fragile, short-lived species residing on a small rocky world, yet we possess a curiosity that spans billions of light years. We are the only eyes in this part of the cosmos that look at the darkness and ask why the light is gone. Our obsession with the missing black hole is not merely a scientific pursuit, it is an expression of our fundamental nature. We are a species that seeks meaning in the silence and structure in the void. We refuse to accept a hollow center, driven by a need to account for every sun and every singularity. In our persistence, we have learned to see the invisible, to hear the echoes of gravitational waves, and to track the movement of shadows across the eternal night. This investigation teaches us that the act of searching for what is gone often reveals more about the nature of reality than the study of things we can easily see. By focusing on the absence of the black hole, we have gained a deeper understanding of the mechanics of space-time, the power of gravitational waves, and the violent processes that shape the evolution of galaxies. The void is not a lack of information, it is a different kind of information. It is a negative space that defines the boundaries of the possible. The missing heart has forced us to reconsider our models of how galaxies grow, how they merge, and how they eventually die. It has pushed our technology to its limits, and our theories to the breaking point, expanding the horizons of human knowledge precisely because it offered us a puzzle we could not immediately solve. Ultimately, the story of the missing star is a reminder that in the greatest reaches of space, nothing is permanent. The supermassive black holes we once thought were the eternal governors of the heavens are themselves subject to displacement and exile. The galaxies we see as stable islands of light are in a constant state of flux, their hearts being ripped out or their structures being unravelled by the slow march of entropy. The universe is a vast, unfolding epic where every silence is filled with the echoes of a violent and chaotic past. Every empty core and every wandering nomad is a witness to a time when the fabric of reality was whipped into a frenzy, a reminder that the peace we observe in the night sky is merely a temporary lull in a much larger, more turbulent narrative. As we turn our gaze away from Abel 2261 and back toward the familiar stars of our own neighbourhood, we carry with us the lesson of the void. We understand now that a galaxy can lose its soul, that a king can be cast out of his kingdom, and that the centre does not always hold. Yet in that realization there is a strange kind of beauty. The universe is more mysterious, more violent, and more unpredictable than we ever dared to believe. The missing heart is not a failure of the cosmic order, but a revelation of its true, untamed nature. We are a part of a cosmos that is still capable of surprising us, a universe that keeps its most profound secrets hidden in the dark, waiting for a species brave enough to look at the emptiness and ask what used to be there. The legacy of the void is the realization that the story of the universe is far from over, and that the most important chapters may be the ones written in the spaces between the stars.